What's happening, people? Welcome back to the channel and thanks for coming to check out another one of my Procreate tutorials for absolute beginners. In this video I'm going to be discussing alpha lock, clipping mask and layer mask. I'm going to be going through the pros and cons of each one and showing how I would use them as a beginner. That being said, let's get into the video. So I just wanted to quickly mention, guys, this video was actually requested by one of my subscribers. So if you guys have any requests, make sure you get them in the comments down below and I'll be sure to add them to the list of videos which I'm going to make. So for this video, we're going to start with alpha lock. Alpha lock is an excellent method that you can use to shade your images. So this, what I've already created, is just obviously a basic leaf design on a yellow background. So you'll see if I click on my layers, we have one layer which is just the background. I've just coloured it so it's not just white, and then that would be the layer without the colour on. And then if I click my leaf back on, that's the other layer. So we've literally just got the two layers, the image and the background. So you want to come on to layer 3, which is my actual layer with the leaves on. And if I was to click on the layer, come down here at alpha lock, you'll see that there's now a checkerboard background behind the leaf. That lets us know that alpha lock's actually been enabled. Now if I was to choose a brush, for this I'm just going to choose my soft brush and I'm going to choose a colour which is black. And what alpha lock essentially does is now it will only allow us to colour within the lines of my main image. So if I was to choose a brush size, we'll just do something like this. You'll see that I can't actually draw anywhere on the paper other than within the boundaries of that design, which is obviously excellent for shading, because without having this, the shading would be coming outside the leaf, do you know what I mean? So this is good, so you can add shades and highlights to images. You can see that although my pen might be going outside the design, it's only letting us colour within it. Now obviously this is just a basic run through, but this would work with much more complex designs as well. So what are the pros and cons of this? Well, the pros are, as I mentioned, it only lets you colour within the lines, so it makes shading your work a lot easier. And also, when you're using a softer brush, you'll notice that if I select the brush, go over here, you'll notice that the edges of the brush are not actually a solid edge. It's solid in the middle and it sort of like fades out towards the edge of the brush. So if I was trying to colour up to a line, it would be quite difficult, because as it gets to the end, it sort of like feathers out. So if I had a solid line that I had to colour up to, then there's going to be a soft edge in between the solid line in the middle of the brush. If I wanted to colour all the way up to that line, then I could, but it would mean the soft edge would be going past the line. So that's an issue you're going to have, which is obviously solved by using this alpha lock method. Now what are the cons of this? Well, you'll notice that I'm actually, although I do have alpha lock on, I am colouring straight onto my design. So it's normally best to do everything on separate layers. So if you want to go back and change something, it's easier to go into the layer and remove it. Whereas this, yeah, it would be more known as destructive art, because once I've put this on, it's actually going to be part of the design, so I can't really take it back off. Okay, so that was a brief description of alpha lock. Now we're going to talk about clip masks for the next point. So obviously we've already discussed how you only need the one layer for alpha lock, and you would turn on alpha lock and it will give you this checkerboard in the background, and that's how you know you can start working on your design without going outside the lines. Well, for clip mask, you want to turn off alpha lock, you want to create a new layer above that image, and you want to turn on clip mask. Now what you'll see straight away is a small arrow pointing down to the layer below it, and what that means is that this layer is going to obey the parent layer. And you notice you can do that as many times as you want, so I can make another layer, turn on clipping mask again, and then that will have an arrow pointing down, so each layer is going to obey the boundaries of the layer below it. So layer 3 is obviously going to obey the boundaries of the original design, and layer 4 is going to obey the boundaries of layer 3, which, unless we draw anything else on layer 3, is just going to feed back down to the original image once again. So like before, if we select layer 3, which is our first clip and mask layer. We can click off there. We'll again select a brush. I'll just use the same brush to keep it all the same, black. And again, we can do the same thing. We can start shading our design. And in essence, it's doing the exact same thing, but this time we have the bonus of it being on a separate layer. So rather than all of that being one thing, we now still have our shading on a separate layer, so we can turn the shading off, we can turn the original layer off, but it means if we weren't happy with the shading, we could just delete it altogether. And it also means we can have as many layers as one, so we can have, say, our shading on layer 3, then we can come up to layer 4, we could choose maybe, we could just choose a lighter version of our image color. We could still use the soft brush, and we'll come in and do highlights on the other side. So, and then once again, they're on a separate layer to the background. So now, in essence, we have our original layer, layer 3, which is our shadows, and layer 4, which is our highlights. Now, why is this better than the first one? Well, this is, as I mentioned, alpha lock is more of a destructive method because you're actually altering your original piece, where this is what you would call non-destructive method because we haven't actually touched our original artwork. It's still there. We can turn off them layers and we've still got what we originally had. And then we can turn the layers back on. There's with shadows and there's with highlights. Now, one reason this might be good is if you were creating this artwork as a project for somebody else, maybe it's a piece of freelance art, whatever, then they might come back to you and say, yeah, I'm happy with the design, but I don't like those highlights. Now, if we'd done it using alpha lock, we'd basically have to start the whole piece of art again because, like I said before, those highlights would be essentially part of the original image. But if they came out and said, yeah, I'm happy with it, but I don't want the highlights, it's as simple as turn off that layer and the highlights are gone. We could turn off the shadow, same thing again. So it's basically the same thing as alpha lock, but it just gives you a lot more leeway to play about with it, and it keeps everything on separate layers, which is obviously always a better option. Okay, so we've spoken about alpha lock and clip mask. Finally, I just want to quickly go over layer mask. So just as an example, like we said before, say this was a piece of freelance artwork that you've been commissioned to make, and it came back and says, yeah, we're happy with it, but we'd rather just have some imperfections in these leaves just to make it look a little bit more interesting on the eye. So one way you could do that is you could select your layer with your original image on. You could choose the eraser brush, choose a size that you think would be suitable. We'll have something like that. We'll try somewhere around there. Then you could just come around and obviously start putting little lines in the edges of the leaves just to make them all look a little bit more interesting. Obviously this is just quickly to show the effect of the mask, but you get the idea. So we'd be come around doing all these, and yep, that's all fine and well, but this is actually destructive because, like we said before, it's altering your original image, which is something we don't really want to be doing. So a way we can create the same effect in a non-destructive way without disrupting our original image is by using the mask feature. So I'll just undo all those strokes we've just made. If I come to my layers, select the layer with my original image on and choose mask. Now we can choose either a black value or a white value, and essentially what it does is black will obscure our image, so it'll let the background show through, and white will bring it back. So it'll be easier if I show you rather than explain it. But so we'll choose black, we'll choose a brush, we'll just for this choose, what have I got in my recent brushes, we'll just choose monoline to keep it simple. So we'll choose a similar size to what we've just been using with the eraser, and now you'll see it has the exact same effect. It's letting the background show through completely, but as we mentioned, it's on a different layer, so I can easily turn that off. I could delete it if I want to do, or I can obviously leave it on, and that's going to have the same effect as the erasing what we were shown before, but it is non-destructive. Now, like I mentioned, the black value will allow the background to show through. Maybe the client comes back and says, yeah, I love it, but it's just slightly too many lines. Then we could choose the white value, go back over them lines, and it'll completely cover them and our original image will show back through. So we can do that with as many as we want as well. And obviously that wouldn't just have to be lines. This is completely just for an example to show you how the mask itself works. But you can see the effect. It's exactly the same as if we were rubbing out, but in a non-destructive way. Right, that's all for this video, guys. I really hope you've managed to take some value from that and it's helped you out in your Procreate journey. If you have made it at the end, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking, commenting and subscribing, because it'll help my channel to grow and it'll help you to stay up to date with all the videos that I make. Like I said in the start of the video, if you have any ideas for future videos you would like us to make sure you leave them in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.